Macmillan Audio presents Murder at Haven's Rock, written by Kelley Armstrong, read for you by Thérèse Plummer. Prologue. The longer Penny works on building this strange little town, the more obvious it becomes that the company is lying. Lying about everything. They say this tiny community deep in the Alaskan forest is owned by a private firm conducting climate and environmental research that's both valuable and potentially controversial, given the political divide over climate change. The owners want to conduct this potentially very lucrative research unhindered, and they were willing to pay a small fortune for the construction crew's discretion. Every member of the crew had been hand-selected from across North America. They'd signed ironclad NDAs and been provided a working on an oil rig cover story for family and friends. All electronic devices had been confiscated at the airport. They'd been flown out in a private plane with darkened windows. The others didn't care what the reason was. Research, climatology, environmental engineering, it was all so deathly dull. As far as they were concerned, any company willing to pay a year's wages for a quarter's work could insist the crew work wearing clown noses. While Penny had accepted the story herself, there was a reason she'd grown up in a bedroom filled with cats. It was her mother's joke, and a not-so-subtle reminder. Curiosity kills the cat, Penny. Be a little less curious, and you'll live a lot longer. That was like telling Penny to breathe less air. She thrived on mysteries and puzzles, especially when it came to houses. Yes, most people don't think of houses as puzzles, but that's because they aren't architects. A new client comes to you, eyes glittering with the dream of their perfect home, and you need to make it a reality, even when everyone has told them that their vision won't work. Penny's specialty is making it work. That's why she's here, to take this company's dream and make it a reality. They wanted to minimize their town's footprint while maximizing both function and comfort. The last part sold her. This wasn't a firm trying to stuff worker bees into the smallest hive possible. While they did need to be small to keep others from investigating, they didn't want to sacrifice livability. That made them good people, right? At least decent, as far as corporations went. The budget ignited the first whisper of doubt. Not that they were asking her to cut corners. She expected that, and she expected to discover that their insistence on maximum livability was mostly advertising for the scientists and technicians who'd live here. No, the problem was that they didn't amend her plans, even when she warned it'd take the project over budget. She'd run a test asking for something ridiculous. If they'd agreed, that would mean they were fleecing investors with a fake project, which would be disappointing, but none of her business. Instead, they balked at the overage and asked her to scale it back. Something was going on. And after nearly 20 years in the business, she thought she knew all the scams and tricks, and she couldn't figure this one out, which had her cat whiskers tingling. She'd started sneaking into places she shouldn't be, listening to conversations she wasn't supposed to hear, and all she caught were tidbits that made her more suspicious without answering any of her questions. For a curious kitty, that was catnip. Penny had just finished eavesdropping on a conversation when the participants stormed off. That happened a lot between these two.
Sample complete. Ready to continue?